Hello, this is CandySun here, and after a while of doing a couple of those other 3.6 videos, one just a speculation video, and the other being a montage type thing, I decided it'd be time to go back to some more commentary on it, and just talk about what I've thought so far with the update. And I'm really liking this update so far. I think it is a very interesting one. It's casual based, but it also allows for that in-depth with how many cards there are and how many combinations you can have. Obviously there's some balance tweaks that need to be made, and I'm talking to Ninja Kiwi about that. However, I just wanted to get into the first topic for this video, and that is, what decks am I using? So I have two main decks. One is for most maps, and one is for the shorter maps, such as Inkblot, Hydro Dam, and Indoor Pools. So I will go over the longer map deck first. So for the first card, I have the 00 Dart Monkey, and this is a very staple card. It's great for Super Monkey Fan Club, and it is also a great early game Eco Send tower. It's a very basic tower and gives me the ability to have a decent early game, and it transitions well for defense. The next card we have is a Triple Darts. This is a 2/3 Dart Monkey, and it's great for early to mid game defense. It also works well with Super Monkey Fan Club, being better than the 00 Dart Monkey if we have the extra money and cards to use. The Zebra Send is nice, however I've not been using it as much. I prefer using the card for defense. The Juggernaut I find is a pretty good card. I don't use it that much, to be honest, maybe one or two, and also depending on the map. But it's great for camo lead popping power, considering it's my only reasonable use for camo lead defense on this deck. The lead send is nice, however I've not been using it that much. But if they don't have any camo, or if they don't have any lead popping power, you might as well use it. The next card we have is the 3-0 Tack Shooter, and this is a very good card. And it's a great early game card. If I don't get a Triple Darts early game, I will go with a 3-0 Tack as my secondary option. This is a great early game card, and the green send is also great for economy. The next we have is the Blade Maelstrom, and this is great for defending rushes into the mid game. This is not a late game tower, this is not a early game tower. I don't really use it for round 13. I use this more for those larger BFB rushes where Super Monkey Fan Club cannot hold alone and Ground Zero is just too expensive, or I don't have a Ground Zero. And the Camo Grow Zebras are a nice Bloons Send to have if they have a very weak camo defense. Next we have the Super Monkey Fan Club. Pretty straightforward. It's great overall tower, good for ZOMG layers, and good for BFBs and Moabs. It is a very balanced, or it's a very general card, I think is the best way to say that. It works great for just about anything. However, it is not as good as in normal assault mode, because it's tougher to get up those extra Dart Monkeys. And you can't really buy sell it either. The BFB send is great on it, and versus people who are lacking in Moab popping power, I will oftentimes just send the BFBs, even though I'm going eco. Next we have the Glaive Ricochet. I just have it in there because I'm not sure what else to go right now. I used to have the Bionic Boomer, mainly because of the eco sends, but I found that the eco sends were not efficient enough to make it worthwhile, either opting for my lower balloon sends or the laser cannon. I think the Ricochet offers some more defense than the Bio Boomer does. However, that card is more of a flex right now, so I'm still working on that. The Black Sends is nice if they don't have any defense up, so I think that might be the reason why I'm going to be using this card for now. However, I am looking for a replacement. Next we have Sabotage Supply Lines, again a staple card. This is great for the mid to late game defense. The Camo Grow Rainbows are nice, however I don't find myself using that much because of how expensive it is. I use that more for defense, especially towards the late game, which allows me to defend late game really well. Next we have the 1/1 Wizard. I almost got that wrong, along with yellows, and that tower is decent for the early game. It's more of a fallback option if I don't get my dart or my tack, and the yellow send is okay for eco. It's Also decent for rushing if you want to layer it over like some greens from the tack shooter. So just gotta keep that in mind. It's pretty good for the eco, though. Next, we have the laser cannon, the 3-1, and I normally find myself using that for the eco sense. However, I have used it for defense for a little bit, but I find it a little underwhelming still. Even with the price, I just don't find myself using it that much. Because by the time you're affording it, it's just, you're to the Moabs. So there's not really much of a point for it anymore. The pink sends are really nice though, being really efficient, even more efficient than the pink sends on the ground zero, and especially as you transition to that later game when you're running out of slots to send of balloons, because it takes forever to send your large pink sends. It's really nice. Ground zero, that is more of a last option type deal if I need to ground zero for a really large BFB rush or something like that the Maelstrom cannot handle, in addition to the Super Monkey Fan Club. And the eco sends are the best late game because it just has the most in one send. So you can really pile up 3,000 eco from 5 cards using that, and it's just insane. Next we have the 1-1 Ninja. I really hate using this one for defense, but if absolutely necessary, I will use it. The balloon sends are great for early game and are mainly the reasons I use the card, but again, it's more of a fallback option if I don't get my other defense options. The next is the glaive thrower, just regular thrower, 2-2 I want to say, and again that's more of another early game card if I don't get my other options for defense. And the blue sends are also really nice. Next is the Ray of Doom, which is great for late game. Like, I think this, I have not tested Temple, but I honestly prefer, like, I really like using this Ray of Doom. It's really nice, especially for the price, but price is not the issue here. Whether it's 30,000, 50,000, 100,000, I probably would be using the Ray of Doom, because by that time, I have so much money it does not matter. It is great for late game, especially for the amount of space it uses. And I think that might be one of the reasons why I prefer using it over the Temple, since the Temple is a 4-2 Temple, which means you can't get nearly as many of them on the map as you used to be able to. So with that, I really like using the Ray of Doom card for the later game. The ZOMGs, it sends 5 ZOMGs, and they're tightly grouped, or more tightly grouped than they are in regular battles. However, if you work your cells right, you can actually send infinite ZOMGs. Because what I find myself oftentimes doing in the late game is I'm selling 3 or 4 of my cards as soon as they're available to be sold, or placing them if I get like a Ray of Doom. And once you get the ZOMG sends going, you can keep selling it as fast as possible and pile up those sends to basically send infinite. Next is the Spike Factory, the 0-0. I almost never use this for defense, but if I absolutely have to, I will. And you can see in one of the games in here, I do end up using it because I'm forced to. The red sends are, in my opinion, the best balloon send in the game. And I think that's a really good balancing fact with this factory being a useless tower. So, that's my main deck. I really like using this. And onto my secondary deck. The first card we have is the Triple Darts, again a staple card, very good for the early into mid game, and a very general tower. Same reasoning as before. The 0-0 Dart Monkey, mainly more for the eco in this deck. I also have it for Super Monkey Fan Club just in case, but on these maps you will almost never get to the rounds where you're using Super Monkey Fan Club. Next we have Juggernaut. I'm iffy on that one, may switch that to like a 2-2 Wizard, but for now I'm perfectly fine with using that card. It also gives me those lead sends, and the camo lead popping power. Next we have the Super Monkey Fan Club, for in case those matches go where it goes past 13. Those will almost never happen, but I'm always packing that into the deck just in case, simply because you have 15 slots now, so why not use one for the later game. Next we have the 3-0 attack, another option for defending early if I can't get down like a 2-3 Dart Monkey, and the eco sends are really good as well. Next is the Maelstrom. If I'm in a tight spot and need to use that, I can. Balloon Jitsu is a very efficient tower overall and very versatile. And also the camo lead sends I really like on shorter maps, because it's tough to get up a lot of defense on those shorter maps, especially with how much lower the economy values are. Next we have Sabotage Supply Lens for if it goes past 13. That card isn't as necessary, I feel, but Sabotage is such a good card, I think it's might as well be put into the deck. Next we have the Cluster Bomb. That is more for the Bloons send, because sending Space Pinks in the shorter map puts a lot of pressure on them. But the Cluster Bomb can also be nice if you don't have enough defense for like yellows or greens. Next we have the 4th tier cannon, Bloon Impact, that's what it's called. And the Regal Rainbows, that is probably a necessary card for the shorter maps. 4th tier cannon in a tight spot can be placed and battle energy to defend any round 13 non-camo rush. But it can also be used to send Regal Rainbows, which are a very tough rush to defend. Next we have the Moab Mauler. And the Moab Mauler I honestly am not a huge fan of, but the Moab send is invaluable on shorter maps. Not because Moabs are specifically powerful, but because it either forces them to battle energy or spend a lot of money on defense, which they don't have on shorter maps. Next we have the Wizard. That is more for the yellow send, however, the cheap lead popping power is nice on shorter maps. The yellow send is also really nice if you layer it. Next we have the 0-0 farm, and I just want to go farm on these maps. Why not? That is if I can't afford up to a 2-0 farm, or if I just have it laying around, might as well use it. The green send is also very nice if you want to go for a little eco, or if you have a lot of 2-0 farms up. Next we have the 2-0 farm, and I prefer using this over the 0-0 simply because it's a 2-0 farm, and the 0-0 is a very meh tower. I'd much prefer using a 1-0, but it is what it is. The camo pinks are also a very good send on these shorter maps, where you're not even sure if people are going to have camo popping power in those rounds. And lastly, the Engineer, and that is a great early game tower, and the Space Pinks is also a very nice send. That gives me multiple ways to send Space Pinks early game to allow me to get that pressure going, and it also gives me another option for the early game. So instead of having 2 super viable options for the early game like I do on my first deck, I now have 3, which gives you a 50% more chance of having a good defense early game, which is a big chunk. So those are my decks. Probably a lot of explanation, and if you can see, or if you were looking, my first deck cost on average almost twice as much per card as my second deck. So you can see the difference in their aim. And those are my decks. So with that, I really also want to know what y'all are thinking on card battles so far. Just let me know down in the comments what your thoughts are on this update so far. I'm really liking it. I like the change to it, and I like the chance. There are a few things that I have suggested that they should fix. However, if y'all have any really good suggestions, I probably will pass that on to Ninja Kiwi, because I want this game to be balanced as much as possible, while remaining that fun, random, a little random, I guess that's the best way to say it, game mode. Because, again, this is a card game at the same time. It's not going to be 100% the exact same. It's going to be... It's going to have chance, and the decks that I build are generally designed to reduce chance as much as possible, which is why you see me having so many different options for the early game. But just let me know what you think of the update. And also, a lot of y'all were asking about the mixed eco video, and that will be in the works. It just got pushed back because of this new update, and I promise that thing will be on the way, so you won't be hanging for much longer. So with that, that's all I have to say for this video. Hope y'all enjoyed, and see y'all in the next one.